Hello, my name's Gary, and I'm a bookaholic. I need help. Please, help me. Welcome to the Tainted Tavern. Hello.
Welcome to the Tainted Tavern. Come sit inside with me.
Hello, today I'm answering a tag on this channel. You're at the Tainted Tavern, where anything goes. There are no rules at the Tainted Tavern. Well, that's not strictly true. There are 3 rules. No politics, no religion, and no fucking Justin Bieber on the jukebox. But today I'm answering a tag that has been sent out all over the internet, and I find it rather entertaining, a rather enjoyable little tag to take part in, and it goes under the collective title of Confessions of a Book Collector. And at the end of this video I'll be tagging 2 channels, booktube channels that I really enjoy. So I've got the notes here from the tag. So the tag is called Book Collector, and it was started off, or rather I was tagged by a channel called Another Bibliophile-Reads. The tag was actually started off by a chap called Mike at the Bibliophile bookshop, and I'll be tagging 2 booktube channels that I really enjoy at the end of this video. So basically the way this tag works is it's 8 questions which you've got to answer, and then you pose a question for yourself for other bookaholics out there in the real world. Just taking a sip of my scotch here. Okay, so without further ado, let's get on with the Confessions of a Book Collector. Question number 1. I own more books than I could read. Do I agree with that? Well, possibly. It depends how long I'm going to live. I mean, at the moment, I'm 60 years of age, hashtag still sexy at 60, but I see myself going for 107 years. I don't know why. Maybe I'm blindly optimistic, considering I smoke pipe tobacco and drink a lot of scotch. I'm still aiming for 107, but hashtag still sexy at 60. But yes, I suppose I have got more books than I could ever read, because I've been buying books ever since I can remember, when my mother taught me to read, and that's another story that I'm going to go into one day, because school initially failed me, and my mother found out I couldn't read, and she kept me in for an entire summer holidays way back during that golden summer of 1976, when everyone else was out getting sunburnt and running through the woods and the cool clear waters of the rivers. I was stuck at home being bullied into reading by my mother. And I use that term bullied because that's how I think I felt about it at the time. But my mother was stubborn, more stubborn than me. And she kept on, and she kept on until I finally gave in and thought, I'm going to have to learn to read, and it's the best thing anyone has ever done for me. So I've been buying books since then, and I don't like getting rid of books. I don't know why, but perhaps I do know why. I mean, what's the definition of a friend? What is a friend? A friend is someone who you can talk to. It's someone who keeps you company. It's someone who feeds off your ideas. It's someone who gives you ideas. So that's basically the definition of a book. So yes, I've got many thousands of books, and up around you now, somewhere in this video, there should be another video within this video showing my bookshelves at the moment. Now that's not my full collection of books. I've got a lot of books in boxes up the loft. I've got books in like storage containers under the beds in every single room in the house. So I've got many thousands of books, and I've also got a vast digital collection of books from my Kindle, my beloved Kindle. Yes, I'm not one of them who dislike Amazon because Amazon exists to make money. I think that's what all businesses do, but I find the experience of the Kindle really good. So question 2. I've bought books because they were beautiful. That's a question that I some way agree with and some way disagree with, because yes, I have bought editions of books because they are beautiful, but generally I wouldn't buy a book which is stunningly beautiful. I mean, it could have a young Pamela Anderson on the cover, draped over a Ferrari sports car, wearing the skimpiest of bikinis, but if I didn't fancy what was inside the book, although the cover probably interested me, I wouldn't buy it. But I have bought books because they were beautiful, and a perfect example is this book here. when I thought about this question earlier, when I thought I was going to answer this, I thought, right, I'll have to go through my collection of books and find a book that I thought is considerably beautiful. But I've actually got a book on this shelf in the main room of the Tainted Tavern that I do think is beautiful itself. And the reason I feel that I bought this book because of its beauty is because I already own the stories contained within its books in other editions. But this is The Complete Chronicles of Conan by Robert E. Howard. I just think this is an absolutely stunning looking book. It's fox leather. It's got a lovely little gold image there of Conan with the crown. The Complete Chronicles of Conan Centenary Edition is written in a lovely font there. And on the back it says, Howard was the Thomas Wolfe of fantasy, and most of his Conan tales seem to almost fall over themselves in their need to get out. And that's a quote from Stephen King, who prostitutes himself everywhere with book quotes. It's a lovely book. Maps on the inner fly pages. It's just a wonderfully stunning book. So yes, I suppose sometimes I do buy books just because they're beautiful. Question 3. Finding a great book is sometimes more interesting than the book itself. That's definitely true. I mean, when I was a youngster, we had paperback spinner racks everywhere, and you'd go into these shops and I'd see these gory covers, usually in the horror genre or westerns. I've always loved westerns books, and I still read westerns to this day. In fact, I've written several westerns which were published by Robert Hale under the Black Horse imprint. And another guy who I'll be tagging later, Thomas McNulty, it was also what would you call it, an housemate, because he was with the same publisher as me for a period. But anyway, I'm digressing. So you'd go into the shop and you'd see these wonderful garish covers on these horror novels, or these war novels, or these western novels, and you'd think, oh wow, I've got to have that on the cover itself. And the cover was so interesting, it was so stunning, usually so visceral that it would take your breath away, and you'd get it home, and sometimes the book was pretty shit. But anyway, most of them were good though. Okay. Question 4. I've sometimes bought duplicates by accident or new versions. That's very true. I've done that a lot. And because when you've got a library that contains thousands of books, you do sometimes see something outside. So maybe you haven't read it for a decade or more, and you see it and you think, wow, that's interesting. I know that author. I'd like to read that book. And you bring it home and you discover you've already got it. So yes, I have done that. Okay, 5. Question 5. I rearrange my books for fun. Not really for fun, but I do like to have my books arranged by author and genre. For instance, upstairs in my study, I've got my massive paperback collection of vintage westerns. I've got almost the entire run of Edge westerns by George G. Gilman. That's Terry Harknett, who became a good friend of mine later in life. I loved his books as a kid. I'd buy them for 75 pence in a shop in Tonopandi called the Wishing Well, and then I'd just skip off school and go down the woods and climb up a tree and sit up a tree all day when I should have been in school doing double algebra, reading these gory westerns by George Gilman. I absolutely loved the guy. He was my hero. I mean, I was a normal enough kid. I love footballers, I love movie stars, I love TV stars, but my biggest passion was always books. And later on then, when I became a published western author myself, I became friendly with George Gilman, real name Terry Harknett, and I was actually the first person to bring the Edge books back into print. After a long period of them being out of print, I bought them into digital print. I only did the first book, Edge the Loner, because my own life and my own writing career, it got in the way, and then another guy who has sadly passed away now, Malcolm Davey, took over, and he did a reasonably job, but I feel I missed out on, I should have championed the entire run of Edge books by George Gilman. I should have brought them all back into print because I had that passion for the character, and I still hold that passion for the character, even though the character of Edge was basically a pulpy spaghetti western type version of the cowboy hero. I just love those books, and I still do. Okay, question 6. There are books I'll never read. I'm not sure what that question means. I suppose there are books out there I'll never read, like I'll never read anything by Jilly Cooper. I'll never read anything from Mills and Boons, although I have read a couple of Mills and Boons in the past, because I once thought, how difficult can it be to write the Mills and Boons? I mean, they're formulaic romance novels, but let me tell you, they're bloody difficult, and I fell at that post. Okay, chapter 7. I've bought books because they were a bargain. Well, yes, definitely. I'll sometimes pick up a book. I browse second-hand bookstores a lot, and I'll sometimes pick up a book because it may be priced at 10p and I'm not sure who the author is, and the description of the story on the back cover or inside the book, I'll think, maybe, I don't know, nothing really intrigues me, but I'll still pick it up because it's cheap. And then it ends up in a pile of books in one or other of the rooms in the tavern, unread, but not unloved. I do love books. Okay, the next question. I like the idea of having certain books, even if I don't plan to read them. Yeah, maybe. For instance, I love the Stieg Larsson Millennium trilogy, and I've got several. I've read them several times. Each of the 3 original books. But I've got several editions of them because I've got some rather beautiful editions, which I haven't read. I haven't physically opened them or flicked through the pages because I've already read the book. So yes, that goes back to the question 2. I bought more books because they were beautiful. Okay, so that's all the questions in the BookTube tag. I do want to point out that recently on this channel I reviewed a book which was part of the British Library Crime Classics, and that was Mystery in White by J. Jefferson Farjun, which my wife brought home from the jumble sale down the local chapel, and I really enjoyed it. It was an author I'd never heard of. He came from the interwar period, so the golden age of crime. I very much enjoyed that book. Well, my wife has just outdone herself and brought home a second book in the series of British Library Crime Classics. Again, I don't know this author, I'm not aware of this author, but I'm going to read this book next and do a review on this channel. And the author is Mavis Doriel, and the book is called Murder Underground. I just love those editions. Okay, so before I move on with tagging my own people, I've got to do a little set a question out. And the question is, Confessions of a Book Collector. What would you people watching this video now, my lovely viewers, my lovely patrons of the Tainted Tavern, what would be your biggest confession about being a book collector? Okay, so now before we go on, let me tag 2 people, and the first person I'm going to tag is Thomas McNulty at Tom McNulty's Book Corral, and they'll be tagged down below in this video. Thomas McNulty, I love his channel. As I mentioned earlier, he also wrote Black Horse Westerns for Robert Hale under the Black Horse line, the same as I did. My pen name, incidentally, was Jack Martin, and something I'm proud of there is my debut novel with Robert Hale with Black Horse was called The Tarnished Star. It was actually optioned for a feature film, but that hasn't come about yet, although it's still under option. And it was during the early days of the internet, and I knew how to use the internet. And so by pushing this book before it was even published, it actually, because Robert Hale's books were largely aimed at the library trade, they had limited print runs. But my book, The Tarnished Star, actually sold out prior to publication. It sold out the original print run on pre-orders alone. So my book, The Tarnished Star, does remain the fastest selling Black Horse Western in history. Not saying it's the best, although I think it's pretty good. Let me show you it. Okay, that's the original hardcover of The Tarnished Star, Jack Martin, which was the pen name I adopted. Jack Martin was actually my grandfather's name. This book only came back to me recently. I gave this to one of my uncles, a late uncle now, much missed uncle, and when he passed away, his wife passed this back onto me, my auntie that is, and this was published way back in 2009. So it's got Jack Martin on the cover there, which was my grandfather's name. My grandfather was of that generation that loved westerns, and he imparted his love of the genre to me. So it's got Jack Martin on the cover, Jack Martin on the spine. Inside it says copyright Gary Dobbs 2009. Very, very proud of this book. Holds a special place in my heart. This was my first published novel. Okay, but on to Thomas McNulty. Now, Thomas, was also a Black Horse Western author. He's also done a lot of other stuff. And he's got a great channel called McNulty's Book Corral. So, Mr. McNulty, I tag you in this Confessions of a Book Collector tag. Okay, and the second person I'm going to tag is Willow Talks Books. I love Willow's channel because it's got a massive fan base, a massive subscriber count, but it's not too snobbish. It's not kind of, you know, book critic kind of trying to appear to be, I don't know, elite or whatever. And Willow covers every genre you can imagine, with a special soft spot for things like Stephen King and fantastic fiction. And I love the style which is represented in Willow Talks Books. And so Willow Talks Books, you're tagged. And I look forward to seeing your video, Confessions of a Book Collector. Anyway, that's all for now, so thanks for watching. Thanks for coming to the Tainted Tavern. I hope you managed to get yourself a drink, maybe fill up a bowl of filthy habit. But cheers, Yaki Da, and see you soon.
Please come back soon.